So, if you watch a lot of mainstream news, or perhaps you're into true crime, or even if you just live in the state of Florida, you probably recognize this man. This is Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County. And they announced just the other day that they had a fentanyl bust happen, and it happens to be the largest fentanyl bust in the state or in the history of Polk County. And they seized enough fentanyl to kill over 14 million people, otherwise, the entire state of Ohio. So, that's absolutely mind blowing. But he gives press conferences all the time. It's amazing the amount of crimes that I guess even happen in Polk County to begin with, because Sheriff Grady Judd they're busting people all the time, whether if it's pedo rings or human trafficking or even drug rings, and just you name it, they're there and ready to bust them, and they don't mess around. They don't play games. I mean, like, if somebody shoots at them, they're shooting back, and I mean, like, it just goes on and on. And yeah, like, I'll just go ahead and get started with this. So it's Sheriff Grady Judd, record-breaking fentanyl bust in Polk County. This is the full news conference, and this just dropped yesterday. So let's give this a watch.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very, very much for being with us today as we are excited to talk about the largest seizure of fentanyl in the history of the Sheriff's Office. And this is all about remarkable work into the two largest drug cartels in Mexico. But before I do that, let me introduce to you, first and foremost, our prosecutor, Brian Haas, State Attorney for the 10th Judicial Circuit. And in my estimation,
He always brings mugshots, by the way.
Prosecutor, not only in the state of Florida, but anywhere in the United States. He does the right thing. He's going to speak to us in a little while.
Yeah, he's been the sheriff here for at least longer than 20 years. I mean, I've been here for for 20 years this year, actually. And he's been the sheriff of Polk County that whole time. So he's been there longer. And he's always ready to get in front of the cameras and give a press conference. He's got a pretty good sense of humor, too. And he's just always to give out the nitty-gritty details. He brings all the mug shots. I mean, he'll stand up there for an hour and show every single person they bust. And he'll even trash talk them. It's usually a lot of fun, or well, not usually, but sometimes it could be quite entertaining watching Sheriff Judd giving press conferences, but not always. Sometimes it's not a laughing matter at all. Like this, I'm not expecting to get a whole lot of laughs out of this one, just because fentanyl's no joke, especially when you're talking 14 million lethal doses. That's absolutely crazy. I'm sure he's pretty pissed off about that. Anytime something like that happens in his county, he's usually pretty infuriated by it, rightfully so.
Wow. We also have Austin Leal from Auburndale Police Department with us today, Terry Story with us, Mark Brutnell from FDLE, and he's going to also speak today. We have Chris Nelson, Brandon Shealy, who's a supervisor. We have Javier Lopez from Border Patrol with us, Michael Garland from HSI, Jim Gill from U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Why do I list them? Because when you do investigations of this magnitude, no single agency can successfully do them. It takes us all working together.
Yeah, this is some international shit, man.
And let me underscore that there's no
Freaking Border Patrol
between any of us. We're shoulder to shoulder to protect the people of the United States from this evil, evil drug, fentanyl.
Yeah, because, dude, without any doubt, it wasn't just going to stay in Polk County. This was just one step along the process of getting this shit distributed out around the country. I mean, 14 million doses. I don't even know if, well, yeah, maybe roughly 1 million people might live in Polk County, but I think that's really stretching it. But yeah, I mean, certainly not enough to distribute it in full just in the county. I'm sure they had plans on probably distributing it, God knows where, all over the country probably.
And I want to highlight before I start giving you the details, and I'm going to give you a 30,000 foot view of this, because obviously there will be other investigations into these cartels. But I want to give you an example.
Oh, great. Fucking cartels.
2018 and 2023, 340,000 people died of fentanyl overdose deaths in the United States.
Yeah, it's true. That's a lot.
Did you hear what I said? I didn't stutter. You can't count that high on your fingers and toes.
Right.
340,000 people in the United States died of fentanyl overdose between 2018 and 2023.
Yeah, I mean, how is that not some declaration of war or an act of war from Mexico or the Mexican cartels at least, and fucking China too? Because China, they're shipping the precursors to make this shit, which they're making it inside the United States now. At first they were manufacturing it in China and then smuggling it in, and then apparently they were also doing the same thing in Mexico, but apparently now they're just shipping the precursors or just all the chemicals and everything that goes into making it, and they're actually making it inside the country now. So, I mean, how is that not some sort of an act of war of some way, shape, or form? I mean, if not China, because I understand second largest economy, it's an enormous country, it's way more populated than we are, and yeah, that's problematic. But what about the cartels in Mexico? I mean, why doesn't the full force of our government and our military just come crashing down on Mexico just over this alone? Hundreds of thousands of Americans dying by getting addicted to the drugs that they're shipping in. If it wasn't for these Mexican cartels or at least an enormous drug market that's occurring in Mexico where they're essentially allowed to run roughshod because nobody really seems to ever do anything about them in Mexico. Everybody just kind of looks the other way. Every once in a while you'll hear something about some cartel leader, getting busted or killed or assassinated or whatever, but for the most part, it just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, it's year after year. More people get killed from fentanyl this year than last year, and then the last year and the year before and all that, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And it really doesn't seem like our government really gives a shit about it, other than the folks out in the field and on the ground, like the sheriff and sheriff's departments, police departments. I mean, they're trying to do everything they can, but I mean, look, you're not going to stop this until you turn off the source. I mean, you're not going to fix the leaky faucet. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I suck with analogies, but anyway, yeah, it's just a really frustrating problem because this isn't going to be the last big bust that they have, and he knows it. I'm sure probably a year from now they'll probably come across 18 million lethal doses, and then eventually it might be 20 million, and then 2-3 years time we're going to be getting like 150 people getting killed from this shit in a single year. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse, and it's just beyond fucking frustrating.
What's important to recognize that? Why it's important to recognize that is simply this. Do you see anyone in the United States up in arms about that? Anyone? Do you see anyone
not at the federal
saying,
level.
We've got a crisis on our hands?
Nope,
Do you
only
see
local folks.
anyone saying we have an epidemic on our hands? Do you see it
Not
leading
really.
the evening news? And the answer to all of that is no, no, no.
Nope, not
Well,
really.
in fact, we do have a crisis when 340,000 people have died in 5 years in the United States of America.
300,000.
Overdose of fentanyl. So I ask you this. What would we be doing if 340,000 people died from the food served in the cafeterias at elementary schools?
Amen. Yeah,
In that
exactly.
period of time. How would we react?
Well, what about the crack epidemic? I mean, how many people was the crack epidemic? How many people were dying from that back in like the early 90s? I mean, they were talking about that. I mean, I don't know if I'd say a great deal in the news, but it was certainly being talked about back then, and how that was a pretty substantial deal at the time where it was going on. But I mean, yeah, there were a lot of people in politics that really wanted to stay away from it because they just didn't want to be accountable for any of it, and they didn't want to have to deal with the problem. They just wanted it to kind of work itself out. But I mean, like, I'd be curious to know. I mean, like, how many people? Hold on, let me just look this up. From just curious to see if it might even return anything during. Maybe I should have said during the peak. But hold on, 17, 20. What? Patience. No, hold on. How many people died from crack? Across America in the early 1990s. How many? Early 90s. This might be just a Brave thing. Maybe I should be asking. Come on, man. Why is this so fucking difficult? This is frustrating. What the hell, man? This is... All right, you know what? Every time I go to Grok, it usually seems to work out for me, so I guess I'm just going to have to go through that avenue. Yeah, I figured it was a simple freaking question. I mean, how many people died from... Because I'm sure that was probably the peak. I would think. It was probably sometime in the early 90s. Or, yeah, I was going to say, maybe they just didn't have really good detail. Hold on. Cocaine-involved overdose deaths in the U.S. were around 5,100 in 1990 and rose to approximately 6,000 by 1993. So that's cocaine-involved in general. That's not just only... I mean, obviously, crack is cocaine. But, I mean, we're talking 5,000 to 6,000. I mean, I was expecting a lot more than that, honestly. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be like 50 or 60,000. All right, hold on. How many during the heroin epidemic? I'm sure there was more than one epidemic, but I'm kind of thinking like what, like Vietnam era or some shit. Heroin rose from 3,000 in 2010 to a peak of 15,000 in 2016. I mean, this is nothing like the fentanyl numbers that we're getting. Height due to sharp. Okay. Yeah, so we're 5,000, 6,000. This one's at 15,000. How many people died from fentanyl last year? My cat's laying all over me. I'm trying to type around her. All right, let's see what happens here. 2024, 48,000 people died from overdoses involving fentanyl in the U.S., significant decrease from the 76,000 reported in 23, reflecting a 30% drop. Preliminary data. I'm not so sure. I mean, all right, fine. I'll take it for what it is, but I thought it was going to be close to 100,000, if I'm being honest. But either way, if I just take that number, let's just say that it is 46 and it was 76,000 the year before. I mean, look, the crack epidemic doesn't hold a candle to these numbers. 76,000 people in what, 2023? Versus, like, in the height of the crack epidemic, it was up around 6,000 people by 1993. It's not even close. I mean, like, we're talking miles apart in terms of deaths and numbers. I mean, and yeah, just like what Sheriff Grady Judd said, it's like nobody's really talking about it. Nobody, I mean, I'm sure there might be talks in the DEA whenever there's a bust or whenever Border Patrol has a bust, like they talk about how much they busted, but they're not really trying to get to the root of the problem, which is taking out the cartels and ensuring that they stay taken out, and also, I guess, try to figure out how to combat the whole China situation, because this isn't going to get any better. I mean, China's trying to come at us in all different kinds of ways. I'm not going to get into the whole COVID thing. I mean, I've got pretty strong opinions on that, but that's for another time. Yeah, plus, YouTube doesn't really like that very much whenever you bring that up. But there's quite a lot of ways China are they're trying to ruin our society from within. I think TikTok is playing a massive role in that. It's just younger Americans are developing what's called TikTok brain, that like goldfish memory, where they're just, short-term memory loss or whatever the hell's going on with the brains of people who watch TikTok constantly. I know it's not good in any way. That's for damn sure. But anyway, I'll just keep going and go off on a freaking tangent.
How would we react if 340,000 people died in county jails from us feeding bad food? There would be storms. There would be people fired and unelected. There would be congressional investigations. Every state would be doing investigations.
Depending on how they frame it.
But yet we pretty much sat silent while 340,000 people in the United States died from fentanyl overdose.
Well,
and
more or
where
less.
does the fentanyl come from? It's coming across our southern border.
Yep. And where's it coming from there?
The good news
China.
is, since the border's been shut down, we've seen some drop in that. Since these massive investigations have occurred.
Yes, the drop has probably happened to some degree, But as I said, and I'm sure you could find it if you look it up, that a lot of this fentanyl that's getting seized by individuals, they're manufacturing it inside the U.S. They're bringing the materials across the border before it's all manufactured. They're trying to manufacture it inside the U.S. That way they can, that way that they can ship in just the individual materials. And I don't know, maybe most of those ingredients are legal by themselves. And then when you put it all together, you somehow get fentanyl. I have no idea how the chemistry works, but I mean, that's something that somebody told me back when I was serving grand jury duty. When was that? A year ago. I was on grand jury for 7 months, and the attorney, the district attorney who was there when we were on a recess waiting for another case to show up, we were basically at break for like 10, 15 minutes, and he was talking to us about that, about how he's got a brother who works in the FBI, and that's what they're dealing with right now. They're dealing with fentanyl that's being shipped in, but not finished fentanyl, just the precursor materials to make fentanyl, and then they're manufacturing inside here. And apparently that's gone up a lot over the last couple of years, and they're just trying to subvert our border in any way they can possibly do it. And apparently that's a problem the FBI is trying to figure out, and I'm sure the DEA and everybody else. But anyway, yeah, he was talking about that. So, I mean, I believe him. I mean, dude's the district attorney for my area, and I mean, I don't know why he'd lie about that. He was just, just making more or less just small talk, just waiting for the next people to come in so we can hear the next case.
We've seen a drop in that, but I want to get back to where I started. And where I started was simply this. We all work together to protect people and keep people alive and safe. So let me introduce you to the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco cartel. The Sinaloa cartel has been weakened some with the arrest of its leadership. They're actually working together some with the Jalisco cartel, which is the two largest drug trafficking organizations in Mexico.
Great.
They call it transnational criminal enterprises. These people are violent. These people want your money, and they don't care whether or not they take your life. So we start out with these two groups of very dangerous people delivering a very dangerous drug. This is not the only drug that they deal with, but we're going to focus on fentanyl today. I'll give you the 30,000-foot overview. It started in July of 24 with a fentanyl pill investigation. In between July 24th to January of 25, there were 8 kilos of fentanyl pills, or 80,000 pills, that came in from Phoenix. They came across the border in Mexico to Phoenix and ultimately to us. There were 6 operations during this total time with about 8 kilos of drugs that were seized. And then in April 28th of 25, we seized 4 more kilos, 40,000 more pills. It was delivered by Regina Headsmith.
Here they are.
Of the Sinaloa cartel.
Here's our winners of the day.
These are the 2 representatives we arrested
Win a free
from
trip
the
to
Sinaloa
jail.
cartel. These are the folks that were assigned to the Jalisco cartel in the pending operations. So we ultimately arrested her for delivering 4 kilos of fentanyl pills, and she delivered those to Lakeland, Florida.
Great.
She was ultimately arrested on June the 19th in Maricopa, Arizona.
That's only about an hour away from where I live.
Arizona. And then there was Adrian Munga. He flew from Phoenix to Tampa to Bartow to pick up the cash for the 4,000 pills. He was arrested on June the 17th when he came a second time to bring us 4 kilos of. So between all of their transactions, we seized 35 pounds of fentanyl pills, or about 160,000 pills. Now, 1 pill is a hit, 1 pill. But understand, we had 160,000 hits. But that's not enough. The good dealers will tell you when you buy these fentanyl pills that, hey, if your body's not used to it, don't take more than a half pill, or we suggest you start with a quarter of a pill.
So it's basically four
because
hits.
It'll kill you. Now, your drug dealer's telling you that you should start with a quarter pill because if you're not an experienced doper, it'll kill you. Then move up to a half pill and then a full pill. These pills are pressed in Mexico. There's no quality control over this. So you don't know how powerful this pill is. But 160,000 pills.
No, and that's a good point. I mean, when they manufacture them, I'm sure they make them in like large vats. And I mean, one pill could have twice the amount because with the fentanyl in its pure form, it's like the head of a tip of a pin is enough to kill you. And there's been instances where even officers, they inhale a little fentanyl dust when they open up somebody's bag or something, and it ends up killing them. That's actually happened before. Just the dust that just wafts up from opening up a bag or something is enough to kill you. And I mean, yeah, like one pill could have just the amount that they expect it to. Another pill could have 3-4 times as much as they expect it to. I mean, it's not an exact science. I mean, we're not dealing with like Eli Lilly or anything. We're just dealing with these Mexican drug manufacturers. I mean, they're not taking, I'm sure, extra special precaution to make sure that every pill is exactly precisely the exact amount as every single other one. And that's where probably, I don't know about the majority of people, but I'm sure a lot of people end up dying just for that reason, because they take the same amount that they've been taking for weeks or months or however long, and it just happens to be one that was like 3 times stronger than the last batch that they had or something like that, and then it ends up killing them just like that.
Now, this Jalisco operation was totally separate. It was not pills. This Jalisco operation was all powder or bricked up. And it also came from traffickers out of Mexico, not related to the pill side. And the investigations started and proceeded when let me get past my notes here, because we took the Sinaloa group off, and then we started working on April 2025 on the powdered operation. And we worked from Alberto Diaz. He flew from California to Tampa to Bartow, and he brought drugs. He was a transport guy. Oh, by the way, he brought his daughter with him. The two of them were involved in transport. We learned that they transported for the Jalisco operation and also picked up money. We found out that Gloria Trujillo Duque, who's 44, from Atlanta, she brought 5 kilos that originated in Mexico. She came from Atlanta, and she was the money person for the cartel. Her job was to do the finance. Keep in mind that in addition to that, we had a cousin to Miguel who brought 5 kilos in.
Good grief, man.
She's the only one that's on an immigration hold for violating her permit to come 25 miles inside the U.S. border. Somehow when she ended up here, we calculated she was just a little past her 25-mile limit.
Yeah, just a little.
On April 28th, we got 5 kilos from Mexico. And how are they delivering it to us? In batteries. You see the pictures, and it's in the battery. That's right. So when you see someone
Come
on
on,
the
turn the
side of the
camera. I want to see
road,
this
maybe
battery.
putting a new battery in their car, you think to yourself,
Okay, car battery.
they've got a bad battery. They had to get another one. Well, what we know is 5 kilos of fentanyl will go in this battery. Now, let me tell you this. The battery still works. Okay?
Oh, of course it does.
So they
Of
rig
course
the
it does.
battery so that it cranks the car.
Yeah, they're crafty like
It
that.
actually works. And then they just
clever.
take the battery out, deliver the battery to you. You think it's a bad
Yeah,
battery.
it's probably a relatively small battery, the one that works, and they probably took the shell of a larger battery and put the smaller one in, and then they work their magic to make it appear as though that it's a larger battery than it actually is, and they stuff the fentanyl probably around the edges of the small battery, which is sitting in the middle of this, like larger container. I mean, I could see how they would probably be able to make that work, but
exchange it, they put another battery.
obviously
in
didn't
the
work good
car.
enough.
In fact, they've delivered 5 kilos. May 24th, we take a delivery in Auburndale. The Auburndale police were vital in this operation, and we seized another 29 pounds of pure fentanyl.
Damn, 29, man.
Let me say that again. 29 pounds of pure fentanyl. So between the two operations.
Again, if it's pure fentanyl, the tip of a head of a pin is enough to kill somebody. And if you're talking 29 pounds worth of that, I mean, it's basically like just not much bigger than a grain of sand is enough to deliver a lethal dose. If it's pure fentanyl.
And the different deliveries of the drugs.
You said it was.
We looped all of these folks in as either couriers of the drugs or financiers to pick up the money or transport people. And we seized a total of 64 pounds. 64 pounds of fentanyl in these two operations. That's enough to overdose.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to remember what that number was. What's his name that was just elected Canadian Prime Minister? He was trying to deliver these verbal jabs at Trump while he was on stage. I think it was the night that he won, and it was right after. It was within the time frame when Trump said that that X amount, like a lot of fentanyl or millions of doses of fentanyl, were not only coming from the Mexican border, but they were coming into the U.S. from the Canadian border. And he said, the new Canadian Prime Minister said something like only 36 pounds worth of fentanyl was determined to have originated from Canada and smuggled into the United States, making it sound like the way he framed that response, he made it sound like that it was only 34 pounds. It wasn't like that they were delivering truckloads of this stuff in from Canada. So like it was only just a small amount that was coming in from Canada. So I mean, look, even something like 34 pounds is still millions and millions of lethal doses. That'd be enough to kill entire states worth of people. And these people, like, just trying to make the comparison as to the number that he just shared. I mean, what did you say, 64 pounds? I mean, if that's true, that would be double the amount that they were just dealing with, just this small group of people, that the entire country of Canada or whoever, is dealing with fentanyl up in Canada, smuggled into the U.S., more than all of them combined from Canada to the U.S. These people had double that. That's absolutely crazy.
14.5 million people.
14.5 million people.
Let me say that again.
That's a lot of lethal doses.
Our detectives and our agents from the federal, the state, and the local level.
Wait, what if you flushed all that down the toilet? If you flushed 14, 15 million doses down the toilet, 34 or 60 pounds or whatever, you got to flush them more than once. You're going to probably take a couple hours to get it all flushed down the toilet. What would that do in the water supply? Would that have any kind of serious effect? Like, could you effectively kill an entire town's worth of people if somebody flushed a whole shitload of this fentanyl down the toilet and it got into the water supply? I mean, I'm just asking honestly because I really don't know. But I think I've heard that mentioned somewhere before, not from some expert, just some nobody like myself who was just throwing that out there. And it got me wondering that, I mean, like I'm sure that the active ingredient in it, whatever the opioid might be, I'm sure it probably doesn't retain its active properties if it's dissolved in water for probably days or even weeks. But it still makes you wonder, if you take that amount, enough to kill millions and millions of people, if it would like potentially have any ability to somehow get recycled through and have any effect on a population. Because I mean, look, if it does, then that's even more problematic, because if somebody's sitting in a hotel room and they've got like 1,000,000 doses on them, and the feds start banging on the door and they start flushing that shit down the toilet, I mean, I think that's something that everyday people should be aware of, that's at least a distinct possibility. I mean, I'm sure that the big water companies would probably appreciate that advisory announcement, because then everybody would just start gobbling up just bottled water, making the water companies rich, or whoever the hell's running that racket. But I mean, I don't know. I mean,
potentially
I'm guessing it won't.
Of up to
but
14.
I mean,
0.5
I can see where it
million
might be
people.
relatively possible. 14 million
Or
fucking
think
doses.
of it this way. We seized enough drugs to overdose and kill everyone in the state of Ohio, or everyone in the state of Pennsylvania, or everyone in the state of Illinois, and have drugs to kill people left over.
Yeah, and I had some left over. Yeah,
so when you look at these undercover agents that risk their lives in doing these types of operations, and then you see it as a risk to their life just to handle this stuff.
It is, yeah, it really is. It has killed cops before.
The violence and the guns and all the other issues they have to traverse in a high-level, large-scale investigation.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen to any of these people once they get out and the cartel's like, where the fuck's our money? I mean, they're not just. I'm sure that they probably end up. Like I'm sure they're prepared for shit like that. I mean, not every single drug deal is going to go off without a hitch, but I mean, they're still going to pin it on somebody. They're going to want their money from somewhere or another, even though I'm sure that they're financially able to just wash their hands of that and say, well, the cops got it, so it is what it is. But at the same time, they're going to want somebody to be accountable for it. So, and I'm sure everybody on this list of people, I'm sure they're well aware of that, but I mean, 14 million doses. I don't know how much money that translates to, but you know what? Actually, he might actually end up saying.
Our detectives and our agents from the state and the federal government are simply the very best. So will they ever get the appropriate thanks for saving lives? Absolutely not.
Yeah, probably not.
But the reality is, while there's 340,000 people that died because these people were greedy and wanted money, and they didn't care that you died between 2018 and 2023, we know an immeasurable amount of people would have died with this 64 pounds of drugs had it that these people brought.
Probably thousands.
They didn't care about you or your loved ones or your children, but we did. And that's why people are alive today, because of the work that our folks did. Let me first turn this over to Mr. Haas, our state attorney, and our colleague,
Haas, give us the numbers,
the prosecutor, who's going to make sure that these folks are held accountable by our
never see the light of day again
criminal justice system.
I mean, they'll be out. They'll probably be out. I mean, it might be like 20 years from now, but
I think when you consider the numbers and the amounts of drugs here, it can be overwhelming when you consider the danger to our community and all the people that are coming and going. These cases just don't make themselves. They don't just magically appear. The reason why you keep coming to these press conferences here in Polk County is because of the leadership of Sheriff Grady Judd.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He is the one that absolutely insists that we do not let up.
Like, look, I'm telling you, man, the amount of shit that goes down in Polk County, you'd be busy for days and days and days just watching these press conferences. It's almost never ending. Every other day, there's a press conference of something crazy going on, like a 100,000, or not 100, like 100 predators were caught in this giant sting, or they'll have like this prostitution sting where they arrest like 50 prostitutes in like one day. It's absolutely crazy, like what they do out there. It's unbelievable.
We're going to continue to pursue.
It's kind of shocking that there's any crime even happening there, but it does.
Dangerous drugs into our community.
Happening.
And the wonderful detectives and law enforcement officers that are working with him, both from the sheriff's office and the partner agencies. They are true heroes to everything that you're seeing here today. They're the ones that basically put their lives on hold and do this job when it may be very inconvenient for them for personal reasons, family reasons, but they keep up the fight and they insist that these cases are made. And the quality of the cases is critical. Arrests are very important, but we know that true justice comes at the end of the case when these very dangerous people are put in prison for a very long time. And that's why the details, the attention to detail, working very hard to make sure.
I mean, this has
that
to be
we
going to
have a
federal
prosecutable
court, though,
case
right?
That we can get
With them
across the
smuggling it
finish
from
line
out or
is
into the
absolutely
country and all
critical.
that shit.
And what a great
Flying
honor
it
it
from
is
one
to be a
state to
prosecutor in
another.
the state of Florida, with a governor and a legislature that supports us by making sure that we have the laws that we need with
Yeah,
very
that amount of
strong
fentanyl should be a
mandatory
fucking death
minimum
sentence.
prison sentences and
Be a damn
adequate
death
funding
sentence.
for all of the operations. It's so important, and it is different in Florida. So it's great to be a state attorney here, and particularly in the 10th Circuit, and partnering with Sheriff Grady Judd and all of the great state partners that we have. So we are ready to take these cases. We've been working with the detectives from the beginning, and this is an important day.
Yeah, I probably
but
can't give
there's
us
a
a
lot
timeline
still
right
to
now.
come on these cases, and my prosecutors are ready to go. So, Sheriff, thank you.
All right, well, I'm curious
Thank
to
you,
know
Mr.
how much money
Let
they
me
actually ended up
introduce
losing.
you to Mark Brutnell. He is special agent in charge of the Tampa field office, and he's going to speak with us today about a very important piece of our ability to do these investigations. Mark?
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Commissioner Mark Glass, I'm Mark Brutnell, the FDLE Special Agent in Charge for Tampa Bay. Thank you for being here. I'm honored to stand along Sheriff Judd, State Attorney Brian Haas for today's announcement. Today's arrests are one of many that have resulted from the funded granted by the State Assistance for Fentanyl Eradication, or as we call it, SAFE, which is a statewide program. I'm honored to also say that the Polk County Sheriff's Office has done quite an amazing job when it comes to the SAFE program. So I pulled some
they
numbers
always
for the
do.
SAFE program just specifically to
They're on top
Polk
of
County
everything.
Sheriff's Office. In 2 years, there have been 13 approved SAFE cases with the Sheriff's Office. Of those 13 cases,
13.
under Sheriff Judd's leadership and the investigative team in the back there, 42 arrests have been made, 48.5 kilos, or as the Sheriff has talked about today, over 100 pounds
Good grief.
of fentanyl has been seized, in
That's
addition
just fentanyl.
to 12.5 kilos of cocaine. So the entire
Wow.
state of Florida, the Polk County Sheriff's Office is responsible for 26% of the seizures statewide when it comes to fentanyl.
That,
put that
that
into
just
perspective,
blows my mind, man.
what-
Like I've said, Sheriff Grady Judd, he's been there and he's gotten in front of cameras and he gives these regular press conferences for over 20 years, for so many years. But yet people still insist on going to Polk County and doing these massive drug deals, and it floors me that like, why do you even pick Polk County? And Sheriff Judd, he said that countless times in front of the cameras. He's like, look, if you want to do your business, you might want to stay out of Polk County because we will catch up to you. And they usually do. They usually have a whole slew of these mugshots sitting right up here on the podium, just showing the whole world who they are.
What they've done here with their cases, they have saved over 24 million lives. The 100 pounds of fentanyl that these folks have seized is enough to kill the entire state of Florida. That's very scary. The success of this operation is a reminder about the importance of partnerships.
That makes you wonder
and
what's
support,
actually
not just
not
between
getting
agencies,
seized.
but from the top down. As Governor DeSantis and our legislature, they continue to work to support law enforcement and ensure the protection of Florida's communities. I'd like to personally thank the investigative team. I worked narcotics for 10 years, a long time ago, and I can tell you you guys have a tremendous amount of patience. These folks don't have
Oh, I'm
watches.
sure.
They drive me crazy. See you at 2 o'clock, which means midnight. Your dedication and your ability to stand fast
Fucking
and
drug
continue to
dealers.
work these cases is very impressive. So in Florida, keeping our families safe is a top priority. And this case is a great example of the tireless and dangerous work being done by the folks in the back. Again, thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate your time today. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. Let me give you one last look at this and to tell you what some of the problem is in areas of this country. Gerardo Valencia Cervantes, he's 34 from Georgia. In 2021, he was arrested at a lab with 60 kilos of liquid meth.
Fucking wonderful.
He was given
And he was
4
already out.
years.
Oh my God, dude.
And he's out and we're arresting him again.
Like that, if you ever seen the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, what was his name, George Jung or something like that? Like he ended up getting 60 years for just about the same amount. Like he was sentenced to the rest of his life, basically. Although, like to be fair, I think they ended up letting him out because he was old as hell by that point. But still, I mean, like dude got 60 years for like what was like 50 kilos or something like that. This dude had more than that in meth, and he got 4 years for that in Georgia. I thought Georgia was a relatively red state. I figured they took, massive drug busts a little more seriously than that.
This guy is evil in the flesh. He's personally responsible for the death of many children and many people across the United States. These operations we talk about that we do are not Polk County centric, but they're Polk County investigated centric because of the agents with FDLE and my narcotics team, which simply is the very best. But think about it. How in God's green earth did this guy get out of jail in 4 years when he's got 60 kilos of meth?
He probably got out
And
in
he's on
less
to
than
kill
that.
other people. This is real,
Because it was
folks.
4 years since he got busted
And
again with this issue.
I want you to understand that it's not over. We're going to continue to work together. We're going to focus on those that would traffic drugs throughout the United States. And if every law enforcement agency in the country cared as much as the feds that work with us, FDLE, the local police departments, imagine how many lives we would save, because we know that they have been, for the last 5 years, flooding the United States of America with fentanyl
Oh, absolutely.
and with meth.
It was
And
very
with
easy in the
cocaine.
last 4 years, too.
And our
the
prayers
border wide
are,
freaking open.
with the border sealed, that would dry up significantly. But where there's a will, there's a way. There's a new way that we'll have to figure out how to catch
Well, like
these
I said,
folks.
they're
But I can tell you, the
manufacturing it
best
within
in the
now.
business that are wanting to save the lives of your children are working together. Thank you. God bless you. And are there any questions?
I was going to say, is
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
yeah, there's probably a few.
Just to clarify, were these individuals specifically operating in Polk County?
I've got it
or were
maxed
they
out.
brought here through your communications with other people?
These folks are international drug smugglers. So during our investigation, we determined that they are international drug smugglers. And they were brought here because they will smuggle drugs any place. So if it weren't for our undercover work, a person could buy the drugs in Polk County or Florida or any other state, and they would deliver them, they would sell them. These are the traffickers. These are with the Jalisco and the Sinaloa cartels.
Yeah, they're just like, tell me
that
when and
are
where.
manufacturing and running huge illegal operations, transnational organized criminals.
You know what? The feds probably
And
funneled
what
them
we're
into Polk
catching
County just because
is,
they
if
knew
you
they
will,
would get
their
busted
field
there.
agents. So the reality of it is that the reason they were arrested here, or the reason the case was made here, was because of the unbelievable work by our detectives, our FDLE agents, our city police, our federal partners. And the reality is, don't think for a second all of these drugs would have come to this county. But don't think for a second that some of them wouldn't have if we hadn't have been the guys buying them and ultimately arresting the people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm just going to cut it there. I actually got a couple of quick ones to get through. This one also just happened just a few weeks ago. This is 4 weeks ago. And Grady Judd, he also talks to the press for this one as well. But an armed Florida man was killed by deputies after a gator attack.
Continue to
I mean,
follow
what the
a
hell?
series.
Oh, hold on, man. Wow, this freaking volume, dude. Oh, man, where am I going to drop it to? All right, let's give this a shot. All right,
Strange
yeah, here we go.
events that ended with Polk County deputies shooting and killing a man this morning in Lakeland. Prior to the shooting, the man was seen swimming in a lake with alligators and was bitten on the arm.
Florida
After
man.
getting out of the water, he grabbed some garden shears and tried to break into a vehicle. After deputies tased him, they say he got into one of their vehicles and tried to get a gun, which is when deputies shot and killed him. Fox 13's
After they
Carla
tased
Byron
him.
heard from the sheriff and from neighbors.
Shortly before 6
Oh, man, I hope the
a.m.,
body
an
camera
employee at the
surfaces on
racetrack
this.
on South
This
Florida
absolutely-
Avenue
this
in
sounds
Lakeland
wild.
Called 911 about
there's Florida
42-year-old
man.
Timothy Schultz, who they say was acting bizarre. Unable to locate him right away, deputies then got a call around 8 a.m. about a man in a lake behind the Christina Hammock neighborhood.
Polk County deputies say the suspect swam in an alligator-infested
suburban
lake
freaking
behind
neighborhood.
the cul-de-sac. He was even bitten by one of the reptiles.
He
and
got
still
bitten?
kept going.
Another
fuck was he
witness
doing out there?
tried to talk to him.
Oh, yeah, here's Sheriff Judd.
And he said the guy growled at me, so I ran in the house and locked the door.
Deputies
The man
arrived
did, not
just
the
when they
gator,
say
the
Schultz
man
was
did.
using a brick to try and break into a
Growled.
truck. Then they say he attacked them with garden shears. Deputies tried to tase him and to de-escalate the situation, but Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd says Schultz climbed into one of their patrol vehicles and tried to grab their rifle or shotgun.
Ooh,
I heard
that's
the
a no-no.
gunshots, and I immediately jumped out of bed. And when I opened the garage door, I saw the
Poor
two
guy.
deputies pulling the suspect.
He's
from
got the thin
car
blue line flag on, too.
and onto the pavement.
He was shot multiple
God
times
bless
and did not
America.
survive.
Oh, they were just doing their job and defending themselves. It was
Yep.
quite a traumatic event. I've been to some in my career.
I probably
in
would have used the
past,
word entertaining,
and,
but okay.
This one pretty well tops it.
Deputies believe
Yeah, I'd
Schultz
probably
was
say
likely
so.
on meth at the time of the incident.
Of course he was
The
on
fact
meth.
that
He's Florida
he
man.
was bitten by an alligator.
He was bitten by an
significantly,
alligator, too.
And still continued his rampage. is
His
shocking.
rampage.
But if you're on enough meth,
Oh, you could do
then
anything.
the person you see
The world
is
is
not the person
yours.
that's attacking.
In Polk County, Carla Byron, Fox 13
You can walk
News.
on water like it's
Deputies
glass.
say Schultz has a long criminal history. His most recent arrest was in April for possession of meth.
Of
the
course
two
it was.
deputies involved in the shooting have been placed on administrative leave.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, well, I mean, let's hope that checks out okay. But yeah, man, damn. All right. Well, here's another one. This was from 11 days ago. Also, Sheriff Judd's involved with this. Polk County deputies shoot and they kill a man who split a deputy's head wide open with a wooden plank. Now, this is no laughing matter, unlike the last one, but
Also new
let's
this
give this one a
morning,
watch.
we're
It's only a
learning
minute
more
long.
about what led up to deputies shooting and killing a man in Polk County last night. Overnight, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd released details telling us the
That's
deputies
Polk
were
County.
trying to serve a warrant
Right in the
around
middle of the state.
9:30 last night on a man in Frostproof for failing to pay child support. Now, he allegedly started to fight the deputies as they tried to detain him, and that's when Sheriff Grady Judd says another person suddenly approached the deputies.
Out of nowhere, a second suspect shows up with a long 2x4 and hits one of my deputies in the head. Deputy
What the hell
Martin.
were they thinking?
He struck him in the head so hard that he split his head open.
Oh, my God, dude.
And Judd says the suspect was immediately shot several times.
Wow.
In the
See, they
middle
don't
of all
fuck
this,
around
the
in Polk
person
County.
initially being detained reportedly just ran off. Deputies were able to catch up with him and take him into custody. The suspect who was shot was declared dead at the hospital.
Dude,
Ladies
it's
and gentlemen,
wild,
it's
man.
not all right to shoot at my deputies, to shoot my deputies,
Or throw wood
to
planks
stab
at 'em.
my deputies, to try to stab my deputies, or to try to beat them with a 2x4 that was being used as a bat.
Good grief, man. I mean, yeah, like if you shoot at Polk County deputies, they'll shoot back until they completely run out of bullets. I think they've even actually said that in the past too. But yeah, man, it's such a wild county, and they like the law enforcement is just never ending. They're always busting people. There's always just these insane shenanigans that are going on. I mean, like you could do an entire reality TV series just based on Polk County, Florida alone. It's just the fun never stops. It's just crazy. It's like sex, drugs, and rock and roll just in one of the wildest states in the freaking union. But anyway, that's just a little bit of Sheriff Grady Judd that I came across today, and I just figured I'd just do a bit of a video on it because, you know, he's one of the best sheriffs that we got in the country, and Yeah, hopefully he'll be around for quite a while because I have no idea who the hell would be able to replace him. I mean, once he decides to retire. But anyway, that's all I got. See ya.